It's time for me to give my breakdown and predictions for every single fight on UFC 295. We are only 4 days away, and although a lot of people are saying this is a very top-heavy card, the only big names or the interesting names are on the main card. I think that couldn't be further from the truth. There are tons of prospects that are must-see TV, in my opinion, guys that have tons of potential, and I'm going to be breaking them down to teach you guys a little bit about them. And as always, if you are interested in just hearing my take on a particular fight, then the timestamps are in the description. And without further ado, let's get into it. It's time to predict and break these fights down. Steven Erceg versus Alessandro Costa, guys. Hear me out, man. MMA fans will give anyone hype, okay? Because Steven Erceg is getting hype coming off of a decision win over David Dvorak, just because his last name is Dvorak and it sounds Eastern European, and all of a sudden that rings the alarm for the average MMA fan these days. When I just saw his fight, and I just thought to myself, okay, he has the bare minimum skill set at flyweight. He's not even that fast. He doesn't stand out anywhere. Yeah, he's got a sneaky head kick. Yeah, he hurt David Dvorak in the third round. But like, my question is, who the fuck is David Dvorak, and why is that such a good win? He's never beat anyone that's that good. Yes, he's gone to split decisions, not split decisions, but he's lost decisions to like decent opponents. Okay, so he's not getting finished by Manel Cap. That makes him not great. Steven Erceg, man, he's okay. He's okay. He's good. He's not bad. I just don't get why people talk about him like he's that good. Like, I hear MMA fans saying things like, man, I can't wait for Steven Erceg, man. He's just such a killer on the loose. And I ask, why? Why is he so good? I think Joshua Van deserves more hype than him. I actually think beating Zhalgas Zhumagulov is almost up there with beating David Dvorak. I don't know, man. Steven Erceg, he doesn't have that much power. He dropped David Dvorak in the third round, hurt him badly with a punch, and then followed up with a head kick and ended up rocking him and dropping him with that and threatened a submission. But I actually think Alessandro Costa is going to beat him in this fight. Erceg's got good low kicks. He does have good low kicks and good leg kicks. But Alessandro Costa's got nasty low kicks as well. And he was almost able to TKO his last opponent, Jimmy Flick, with the low kicks on top of that. And then when he was rendered to a guy that couldn't walk, he jumped on top of him. He's got really good jiu-jitsu, and he TKO'd him with vicious elbows with ease. Yes, he's gotten TKO'd by Amir Albazi. That's not the best look. And I will say this, if Erceg gets this win, I think it's most likely going to be a head kick KO. That's definitely something that he could land on the shorter Alessandro Costa. But Costa's big, he's strong, he packs a punch, he's got a great ground game, and he's got vicious low kicks. And I actually think that he's a little bit more dangerous than Steven the Pillow Hands Erceg. Again, maybe I'm biased. Maybe I'm just trying so hard not to give this guy hype yet because I don't understand why he gets so much hype. But I'm going with Alessandro Costa to win this fight. Yeah, I could see Steven Erceg just winning a tit-tat patty-wat decision. He's kind of like the Guram Kutateladze, the poor man's Guram Kutateladze of the flyweight division. Kind of just goes out there, floats around. I'm going with Alessandro Costa to win this fight. And I'm going to pick him to win this fight with the low kicks. I think he's going to get on top of Steven Erceg, and I think he's going to beat him up a little bit on the ground. So let's get on to the next fight. Jared Gordon versus Mark the Geriatric Madsen. Guys, I'm going to be going with Jared Gordon to win this fight. Mark Madsen's like a geriatric. I think he's missed his cutoff. I think that he's actually physically declining. He's got these really great credentials when it comes to his wrestling background, but man, I just don't see his ability to go out there and mop the floor with someone like Jared Gordon, who's strong, who has good takedown defense, whose striking is ever improving. I know Jared Gordon is a little bit older too, but he looks like he's getting better every single time we see him out there. His last fight against Bobby Green, yes, he got knocked out. Yes, that's a little bit worrisome. He got KO'd with the headbutt. But before that, he was doing really well on the feet against Bobby Green, and he's had a good amount of time off. That happened in the beginning of the year. Man, I'm really not minding his chances in this fight. Mark Madsen isn't good anywhere on the feet. He's kind of mediocre. Yeah, I know he's a stocky, strong wrestler. He may have a chance to land a good overhand or whatnot, but Jared Gordon's got good boxing. Jared Gordon was beating up Bobby Green by countering him or at least staying back a little bit. He wasn't pressuring Bobby Green, and Bobby Green loves when guys pressure him so that he can tee off on people on the back foot. He fought Bobby Green with a really good game plan, and both of these guys have fought Grant Dawson And both of them have been submitted by Grant Dawson. But I actually think that Mark Madsen was the easier fight for Grant Dawson. Jared Gordon was actually putting up a really good fight against Grant Dawson. He was extremely stubborn on the ground. He was able to work his way up to the feet. He was able to make Grant Dawson work for the takedowns. And Grant Dawson, I know he just got knocked out by Green, but like he's got great takedown entries, okay? Again, both of them got submitted, but Mark Madsen's just not good on the feet. And I think that the fight that I saw from Jared Gordon against Grant Dawson proved to me that he could at least hang sometimes on the ground and survive down there and get up to his feet. He's got a good gas tank. Mark Madsen is on the older side. And who are the people that he's beating? Vince Piquel, Clay Guida. Clay Guida, he's not totally washed up. This is not like Diego Sanchez, but like he's beating Clay Guida by split decision. He's beating Vince Piquel by decision. Austin Hubbard, I don't know, man. His wins aren't good. Jared Gordon's out here. Who's Jared Gordon beating recently? Leonardo Santos. Paddy Pimblett, he did beat Paddy Pimblett, and he looked really good against Bobby Green. Man, I'm picking Jared Gordon to win this fight. Mark Madsen, don't fall into the hype. Do not fall into the hype just because he's got these credentials in wrestling. He's not that good, and he's beat up on a bunch of old men that just aren't getting better, that are all significantly declined. Whereas Jared Gordon is getting better every single fight. I'm picking him to win this fight with the boxing, good cardio. He's going to be tough to hold down. And Mark Madsen doesn't have a great submission game anyway. So it's like he's not that big of a threat on the ground. Let's get on to the next fight. Denis Buzukja versus Jamall Emmers. Guys, Denis Buzukja, all right, he lost to Sean Woodson. He took his fight with Sean Woodson on short notice. But I honestly thought that he was one of the worst fighters I've ever seen this year. Extremely mediocre. T-Rex arms, arm punches, mediocre power. His gas tank didn't look that good. Yes, he took it on short notice, and I think that he will be able to push a good pace in this fight against Jamall Emmers, but he was failing takedown after takedown after takedown, and his striking is just like, it's midder than mid, man. It's below mediocre. It's terrible. And I know that Sean Woodson's a really awkward guy to fight because he's got this freakishly long reach. He's like 6'2". That's very wiry for the featherweight division, but Jamall Emmers is also wiry. He's not freakishly wiry, but he's very wiry. He has like a 75-inch reach. He's fast. He has really nice rangy attacks, a good long 1-2 down the pipe, good front kicks down the middle. And every single time Denis Buzukja would close the distance to shoot a takedown, just trying to establish that Longo Weidman takedown threat that we're used to seeing, just the chain wrestling, he failed miserably. And Jamall Emmers actually has really good takedown defense, and he's actually a takedown threat in and of his own right. He also can implement the takedowns, and I think there's just going to be a skill gap here. Jamall Emmers is coming off of a really close decision with Jack Jenkins, who's actually a pretty good striker, who's also got good grappling, all right, and who's also got really deadly kicks. And Denis Buzukja, there's nothing there that's that good. As I said, he's pretty mediocre. He could be totally different on a full training camp. For all we know, this could be the next Merab. You never know. But I'm going to be picking Jamall Emmers to win this fight by decision. Again, I could see him kicking Denis Buzukja in the chin with a front kick, maybe knocking him out. But I think when it comes to the grappling, I'm also going to favor Jamall Emmers in this fight. He's got good takedown defense. He also has the ability to shoot a takedown. And the striking is night and day different. So I'm going to go with Jamall Emmers to win this one by decision. Denis Buzukja, very mediocre. Do not pick this guy to win this fight. Nazim Sadykhov versus Viacheslav Borshchev, okay? Borshchev is going to win this fight by KO, okay? Nazim Sadykhov is like the buffed up, decent version of Denis Buzukja. They train at the same gym. I mean, they look like brothers. They may be half brothers. I don't know. They train at Serra-Longo. Nazim Sadykhov is also getting hype, man. People are picking him confidently to win this fight, and I totally understand that. Slava has been taken down and ragdolled by Mark Jacasey. That was one of the most boring fights I've ever seen in my entire life. When I say ragdolled, the extent of his loss was just getting taken down and held there. Nothing happened. But people act like Viacheslav Borshchev gets taken down left and right all the time, and I actually think Mark Jacasey is a better grappler than Nazim Sadykhov. Nazim Sadykhov, the one thing that I will give him is he has decent power. He's okay on the feet. Again, as I said, he's just kind of like a little bit better everywhere than Denis Buzukja. Very similar style. Puts a lot of pressure on his opponents. He has great cardio. That's what I'll give him. But Slava has got really good and dangerous boxing, man. that KO that he got in his last fight was nasty. He was dropping this guy all over the place in this fight. Yeah, again, I totally understand that he could get taken down, but this is the one hole in his game, and I actually trust him enough to be able to plug that hole. And I think that the striking, there's going to be a big difference in the striking. For example, Mark Diakiese has gotten away from his striking in the latter half of his career, but he's still an experienced veteran in the striking department, and he can at least hold his own and stay safe. Nazim Sadykhov, man, not as good as Mark Diakiese as a grappler. The only thing he really has is cardio. I don't know, man. Like, who was the last guy he beat? Because I just rewatched this fight. I just forget his name. Evan Elder. Yeah, Evan Elder. That was a TKO. It was stopped in the third round. I think he landed a head kick on the eyebrow of Evan Elder, and they ended it with a doctor stoppage. But that was a really close fight, and I don't think Evan Elder is nearly as good as Slava Borshchev on the feet. I don't. Borshchev's got nasty combos in the pocket, man. He's got thudding power for the lightweight division. He's, again, maybe this is me being a little bit biased just because I see these guys get a lot of hype and I pump the brakes sometimes, but I actually do think he's going to lose this fight, and I do think he's going to get KO'd in this matchup. He didn't look that good against Evan Elder. He looked okay against Terrence McKinney. We got to talk about the McKinney fight as well. Terrence McKinney gasses out so hard in his fights. And it was a non-fight after the first round. Terrence McKinney took his back, controlled him. And then in the second round, he totally gasses out and gets submitted by Nazim Sadykhov. But he wasn't putting up a fight. He just gassed out and he totally quit. And I think that submission right there is getting in the head of everyone. And they're thinking, oh, he's going to go out there and totally mop the floor with Viacheslav Borshchev, and I don't see it. I don't see it, man. I think he beat Terrence McKinney because McKinney gassed hard, and I don't think that Viacheslav Borshchev is going to gas hard in this fight. I'm going to pick him by KO. Let's get on to the next one. Roosevelt Roberts is making his return to the UFC to fight the monster from Poland, Mateusz Rebecki, who, in my opinion, is the prospect to watch of the night. A lot of people out here glazing Steven Erceg. No. Steven Erceg is mid compared to Mateusz Rebecki. Mateusz Rebecki, dude, is a monster, and I think he's going to be ranked in the future. He has the most serious case of T-Rex arms I have seen in a long time, okay? And at first glance, you would think, oh, this guy looks like an old man. He's got T-Rex arms. He's probably shit on the feet. He's actually a freaking monster on the feet, because I don't think I've ever seen a guy with T-Rex arms with a short stature like him actually learn how to fight perfectly for their build. And what he does in his fights is he backs people up against the cage behind the black line. And I'm talking about giving these guys no space, no room to breathe. He's got the most powerful low kicks I've seen in the lightweight division, or at least the most powerful low kicks outside of the rankings in the lightweight division. I know there are guys like Justin Gaethje, and he's out here dropping people with low kicks, right? Really good low kicks, and he's very reserved with his boxing early on in his fights because he makes it a point to back people up to the fence. He's great at imposing his will, and once he starts chipping away at the legs and his opponent starts to lose their movement and lose their ability to circle out of the cage, he starts unloading his shots at them with the hands. I'm talking about the boxing. He's got a good jab. He's got a good right hand, tons of power in his hands, good head movement as well. And on top of that, he's also a takedown threat, and he's got a submission game, and he's also got good ground and pound. So in other words, Roosevelt Roberts, who left the UFC after getting head kick KO'd by Ignacio Bahamondes, who's got a couple of good wins against Cans on Tough. Maybe he had a couple fights on Tough. I only watched one of them. He's got good long rangy boxing, and I would normally pick him to beat someone with T-Rex arms. But dude, if there's anyone that knows how to fight with T-Rex arms, it's Mateusz Rebecki, and I think he's going to take down Roosevelt Roberts. I think he's going to push him back, hit him in the legs, kick him in the legs hard, and I think he's going to take him down and finish him in the first or second round. Ground and pound, submission. Mateusz Rebecki, I think that this is the next star from Poland. Very entertaining to watch, so I'm going to be picking him to win this fight by a first or second round finish. Again, Roosevelt Roberts, if he can keep this in the middle of the octagon, he'll do well, but I just don't see him stopping a guy who knows how to impose his will. And that's always the big divider between the guys that are eventually going to make it into the rankings and people like Roosevelt Roberts that may be good in a couple of places, but at the end of the day, man, they're just you know, if you got to basically fall into their trap. You got to be at range playing the little boxing game with them in order for them to do well. And Mateusz Rebecki is not going to play the boxing range. He's going to push him back up against the fence, leg kick him hard, look to take him down, and he's going to destroy him. So let's get on to the next fight. Joshua Van versus Kevin Borjas, okay? Joshua Van is my favorite prospect aside from Mateusz Rebecki on this card. And he's 21 years old, coming off of a really good showing against Zhalgas Zhumagulov. This guy is going to be a monster. Now, we saw Felipe Dos Santos go out there, another guy that's like 23 years old, and we saw him test Manel Kape and actually had a war with Manel Kape. That's a whole other level of impressive. Joshua Van is still a little bit greener. For him to go out there and take out a guy like Zhalgas Zhumagulov and to rock him in moments in that fight, he rocked him with a couple of head kicks, and he doesn't look like he's got the build to be able to get off head kicks that quickly, right? He's not one of these long, lanky guys with wiry weapons, but he's got one of the slickest, fastest head kicks I've seen in that division. He's got great boxing, a really good 1-2, great counters. He hits hard. The takedown defense is there. I haven't seen a whole lot of his offensive grappling, so we're going to find out in this fight, but he's fighting a guy, Kevin Borjas, who's coming off of the Dana White Contender Series. I'm going to be honest, guys. I don't know that much about him. Let me just check him real quick just to confirm. Okay, confirm he went to a decision. So he went to a decision on the Dana White Contender Series, which isn't always the best look. And I'm going to go with Joshua Van. I actually think this guy has like a ton of potential in this division. Fast. He's got great takedown defense. The takedown defense is there because Zhalgas Zhumagulov, a crafty veteran, tried to take him down a bunch of times and it just wouldn't work. And he's just got this really gritty, heavy pressure style on the feet. So I'm going to be picking Joshua Van to win this fight. And I'm going to go with a finish for Joshua Van in this fight in the second round. Unless his opponent, Borjas, has some like ridiculous power that I'm just not aware of, how am I going to pick him? I don't even know anything about him. Whereas I saw Joshua Van go out there and beat Zhalgas Zhumagulov, who isn't that bad. His record will tell you he's horrible, but he isn't that bad. He's actually gone to a lot of close decisions with pretty good competition in the flyweight division. I'm going to go with Joshua Van, 21-year-old, future phenom in this flyweight division. And I think you guys should definitely tune in to watch this fight because he's a very impressive prospect for his age. Let's get on to the next one. Tabatha Ricci versus Loopy Godinez. Guys, I'm going with Loopy Godinez. Yeah, I know that Tabatha Ricci has a lot of hype just because of, you know, the fact that MMA fans fawn over her and whatnot. But I watched Loopy Godinez closely in her last fight on Mexican Independence Day this September, and she ragdolled her opponent, rocked her opponent multiple times on the feet. And it's just going to boil down to the fact that I know Tabatha Ricci is like strong for her weight class. She's obviously like in really good shape. But Loopy Godinez is kind of like a taller, bigger version of Jessica Andrade, who, in my opinion, is even more explosive in the grappling. And I'm going to pick Loopy Godinez to win this fight. I think she's going to take Tabatha Ricci down. And if it's standing on the feet, Loopy Godinez has got a really good overhand. She reminds me of like a female Michael Chandler. So I'm going to go with Loopy Godinez to beat Tabatha Ricci, who gets hype based on the way that she looks and whatnot. But, you know, I'm not going to pick a fight based on that. Really fascinating matchup, right? So I might have to break this down for another 20 minutes in its own video. But for now, let's get on to the next one. And that is a fight between Diego Lopes and Pat Sabatini, okay? Pat Sabatini is extremely overrated, all right? And people are pumping the brakes on Diego Lopes just because they want to sit there and say, well, hold on, Pat Sabatini is actually a tough test. It's a really tough test. Pat Sabatini is a fucking bantamweight, okay? He's got T-Rex arms, he's got pillow punches, and he's got a suspect chin, all right? Pat Sabatini, yeah, I understand he's went out there and he submitted a couple of guys in the UFC. He's taken them down and he's controlled a couple of guys in the UFC. Like, let's look at his record real quick. But he's overrated. He's tiny for the division. He went out there and he submitted Lucas Almeida. Okay, he took him down and he slowly but surely worked his way into an arm triangle and smothered his way in there. He's got good grappling. He's got good wrestling. But people are acting like this is a serious test for Diego Lopes. And I'm just sitting here and thinking, bro, Diego Lopes, he's huge for the featherweight division. He's not only tall, I think he's like 5'11". He's got a really long reach. I think he has like a 74-inch reach. And he's just big. He's like big. He's shredded. Pat Sabatini's like this little fucking Muppet out there. He should be fighting at bantamweight, honestly. He got knocked out by Damon Jackson as well. Pat Sabatini with a front kick in the first round. He's taken like TJ Laramie to decision. Tucker Lutz to decision. Diego Lopes submitted Tucker Lutz in the first 2 minutes. Like, what are we talking about? I don't understand, man. I get it. He's a good grappler. He knows how to impose his will. Like, he's good at transitioning, but Diego Lopes is a different beast. Sometimes you just have to look at the eye test, man. And this is what it is with Diego Lopes. As soon as the fight hits the mat, like, you're in a world of trouble with this guy. Pat Sabatini gets on you. Okay, well, maybe you could make it to a decision, right? Diego Lopes is a monster on the feet. He was cracking Movsar Evloev with right hands, with really slick right hands, long rangey rights, good low kicks. And I think he's just going to bully Pat Sabatini around and twist him up into a pretzel, man. Pat Sabatini's going to look tiny out there in front of Diego Lopes. And he's just getting overrated just because, you know, people are trying to act more hardcore than they need to be. That's what it always is. Same thing with Stephen Erceg. Like, people just hype this guy up because he's a flyweight. Oh, we got to hype up this flyweight that looks pretty good, man. I get it, man. He's a flyweight, but that doesn't mean you got to hype him up so much. Pat Sabatini is not that good. If I had $1 for every single time people said that Pat Sabatini was going to be a tough test, I'd be a fucking trillionaire, okay? I'd be a billionaire, all right? Diego Lopes is going to submit him, and he's going to beat him up on the feet. Simple as that. As soon as the fight hits the mat, he's jumping on a submission. Pat Sabatini's too small to fuck with Diego Lopes in the grappling. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. There's no reason to look deeper into it other than that. Yeah, he's going to get mogged out there. Let's get on to the next one. Matt Frevola versus Benoit St-Denis. Dude, I just cracked a huge smile reading out those names because this is the fight that I'm most hyped for right now. Of course, outside of the co-main event and the main event, obviously. But Benoit St-Denis, I think he's going to beat Matt Frevola, okay? I think he's going to knock him out. And this is what it comes down to, man. Matt Frevola has been looking better than ever, man. He's been looking really good lately. He knocked out Drew Dober. He knocked out Otman Azaitar coming off of a long layoff. But these guys are giving him space, right? Drew Dober likes to back people up against the fence. He likes to put the pressure on him, but there's still like a 5-foot gap between Drew Dober and Matt Frevola. And that's where Matt Frevola can do his work. And Matt Frevola's, you know, got 5 feet of space in front of him, and he's winging out these big overhands and these big winging hooks and these Superman punches, and a lot of them are landing. But that's what Matt Frevola likes. He likes room to be able to wind up on shots and explode on you, right? Off of the fence. Benoit St-Denis, man, he's so good at closing the distance and just backing people up all the way up against the fence and smothering them, dude. And I'm talking about with that body kick. That is his best weapon to back people up. He's got a disgusting right kick to the body. He's a southpaw. I think when it comes to the southpaw thing, it's not really going to make a big difference, but he does have a really good right kick to the body. Matt Frevola's got good kicks too. He's got good spinning kicks, good head kicks, good body kicks in his own right. But that right kick of Benoit St-Denis is money. We saw how effective it was in one of his first fights. What was it? It was against Bonfim, right? He kicked him to the body a bunch of times, backed him up, ended up taking him down and submitting him, right? And we saw the same thing in the Thiago Moises fight. Used the kick to back Thiago Moises up against the fence and just smothered him. And the Thiago Moises fight was a lot more dominant than I had remembered. Because I remember originally my take for the past couple of months has been, well, yeah, he got into a little bit of a scrap with Thiago Moises and whatnot. But no, he actually didn't get into a scrap with Thiago Moises. There was hardly a scrap. There was a scrap for maybe 30 seconds at the end of the first round. And that's the one takeaway that a lot of people have. Like, that's the overarching memory in a lot of people's minds. And I understand why, because that's what I was thinking. Because I rewatched it today, and I was thinking to see, like, these guys go to war. Benoit St-Denis was scrapping for 30 seconds in that fight. Other than that, it was total domination, pillar to post. I know a lot of you guys are going to clown me for saying that, and I just, because I always say that. But Benoit St-Denis went out there, backed him up against the fence, took him down with ease, And even when he's in the clinch position where guys are normally stinking it up, he's landing hard knees to the thigh. He's taking people down. He's beating them up with ground and pound shots. And I think he's going to go out there and take Matt Frevola down. And I don't think he's going to scrap with him. I think he's going to take him down and bully him on the mat, because the way that Benoit St-Denis cut through Thiago Moises on the ground and beat the fuck out of him, bloodied him up in the first round, and then went out there and just bullied him for the entirety of the second round. People don't do that to Thiago Moises, man. Beneil Dariush fought Thiago Moises. It was a dominant win, but he was like smothering and neck breathing on Thiago Moises for 15 minutes. You know what I mean? It wasn't that dominant. Islam Makhachev struggled a lot more with Thiago Moises. And again, I'm going to go back to this. Everyone keeps thinking about that moment where Benoit St-Denis is getting cracked in the first round, because Matt Frevola hits a lot harder than Thiago Moises. Doesn't have as good of a chin. He's been finished before, but he hits a lot harder. He's got a nasty left hook. And that left hook, it was open on Benoit St-Denis. Trust me, I know. He was getting cracked with the left hook of Thiago Moises. But, guys, I really think that Benoit St-Denis' chin is built different, man. He was not staggered. Not once did he get rocked against Thiago, man. Not once have I ever seen this guy get rocked. Not even against Alex dos Santos, who he moved up to fight on short notice, and he got his ass kicked. He's got a chin of granite. Drew Dober, for example, Drew Dober's chin is starting to decline. He's a little bit older now. Benoit St-Denis is like 27. He is the modern-day Drew Dober with grappling. Drew Dober, before getting finished by Matt Frevola, he has been dropped a couple of times in his career. Remember the Casey Kenny fight where he got dropped badly a couple of times before he ended up getting the finish? Drew Dober's chin isn't necessarily granite like it used to be, right? It used to be on another level. Benoit St-Denis' chin is off the charts, man. He's got an iron chin. And if he does eat shots in this fight, I trust him to take those shots. Whereas I think a guy like Matt Frevola is going to be super uncomfortable with the amount of distance he has to work with. And yes, he's going to be like a bat out of hell when he's backed up to the fence and he's able to counter Benoit St-Denis, who does leave his chin open. But Benoit is slowly but surely going to get to him, man. I haven't seen this kind of pressure in a long time. I think this is a real special fighter, especially if you consider the fact that we didn't even know how good his grappling was up until the Thiago Moises fight. I know he submitted Bonfim, but going out there and breaking Moises and just dominating him on the ground, we have never seen anyone do that to Moises. Again, Makhachev slowly but surely smothering him on the ground, right? Beneil Dariush, neck breathing on the ground. These guys have went to the elite status. And Benoit St-Denis has the ability to go out there and knock someone out too. He's got great power, great kicks, good elbows in the clinch. I think he's going to break Matt Frevola, and I think he's going to bloody him up badly. And I think he's going to TKO him in this fight. So I'm going to pick Benoit St-Denis to break Matt Frevola, who does have a good gas tank, who is strong. I'm going to pick him to break him up against the fence in the second or third round. I think it's going to be a war. I cannot wait for this fight. Matt Frevola, he's got good kicks. He's got great striking, big power. But Arman Tsarukyan was taking him down, and Arman Tsarukyan was clinching him up against the fence. And I know that we think of Arman as being this next-level grappler. Well, so is Islam Makhachev. So is Beneil Dariush. I think it's time to really start taking into account that the level of dominance this guy is displaying in his fights is off the charts on the ground. And we didn't even know of him as like a serious grappler up until recently. Before, he was just this guy with an iron chin and heat in his hands. And he still is that guy. But he also has this whole other realm that you have to worry about. When Matt Frevola is out there fighting people, people aren't terrified of the ground game. That's how it is everywhere you go with Benoit St-Denis. And if anyone's going to get backed up, it's Matt Frevola. He's willing to get backed up. He's willing to put his back on the fence. He likes to be there. I just think that Benoit isn't going to give him the space that Drew Dober gave him to work with. Remember, against Drew Dober, he's out there slinging punches 5-10 feet away from Drew Dober, just kind of finding his range and testing things out. And Benoit's not going to give him that space. I'm picking Benoit St-Denis. This dude is on another level. KO or a TKO on the ground in the grappling. I think he's going to break Matt Frevola. Yeah, I know that he's a little bit open on the feet, but I think he'll be able to eat the shots from Matt Frevola, whereas the level of pressure that Benoit puts on guys, his well-roundedness, and how dangerous he is in every single aspect of the fight game. I forgot to mention this, but he is a judo black belt. He's got really good trips as well. He's got a great ability to tie up the legs when he takes people down. And he's just, again, he makes people suffer everywhere the fight goes, whereas Matt Frevola, he's good on the feet, and that's it. Benoit St-Denis is going to win this one, man. He's going out there. He's going to blow up his star status much more come Saturday night. That's going to be the next Ciryl but a much more Chad-like Ciryl because of his style. Let's get on to the next fight. Jessica Andrade versus Mackenzie Dern. I'm going to go with Mackenzie Dern to win this fight by a submission, maybe a ground and pound TKO. I don't even know what division this is in. Jessica Andrade is always bouncing up and down divisions. That's just kind of how her career is going at this point. She's looked horrible in her last couple outings. She got destroyed by Yan Jiaonan. She got destroyed by Erin Blanchfield as well this year. And we just saw Mackenzie Dern annihilate Angela Hill earlier this year. I'm going to go with Mackenzie Dern with this newfound amazing cardio, this new gritty mentality that she has post the divorce. And I think she's going to go out there. She's going to take Andrade down, who's getting worse. And I think Jessica Andrade is a little bit overrated, to be honest. She's just, I don't know. She's good when she can bully around people that are much smaller than her or in smaller weight classes, I guess. But I think this is a bigger weight class because Mackenzie Dern doesn't look that small. So I'll probably go with Mackenzie Dern to take her down, to submit her in this fight. There's such a big gap when it comes to the ground game. Mackenzie Dern's got a really good jiu-jitsu arsenal on her. So I'm going to go with Mackenzie Dern to win this fight via submission. She's also getting better on the feet. She's got great cardio and whatnot. And again, Jessica Andrade, unless you're Lauren Murphy and you're willing to just get in her face and you're just bad to the bone, right? You're just real tough. You're going to be able to beat her, essentially. So let's get on to the next one. The real heavyweight championship fight between Tom Aspinall and Sergei Pavlovich. Guys, as you know, I'm going with Tom Aspinall. I think he's going to move around a lot, and I think he's going to fluster Sergei Pavlovich, the plodster himself. And that's right. I just said it. Sergei's a little bit plotty. We know that Aspinall moves around a lot, and he does have really heavy kicks. And I saw him fluster Big Marcin Tybura with a body kick. And Aspinall has a vicious body kick. And I think he's going to sit behind his kicks. He's not going to sit in the boxing range trading with Sergei Pavlovich because that would be the dumbest thing he could possibly do. Sergei Pavlovich, if he comes in here and just sits behind his jab and looks to stuff takedowns, that's the most lethal Sergei Pavlovich that could possibly fight Tom Aspinall. Aspinall's aware of this, okay? You don't want to get hit by that lead hand of Sergei. It's the best weapon that he has, right? The last time we actually saw him fight a clean fight, because I've said this before and people didn't like it. They gave me a lot of flack for it, but to be honest, Sergei has just gone in there and slugged with everyone. He's looked like a big slugger, a wild man, but he has the ability to fight a clean match, right? Like he did with Jamil Abdurakhimov. He caught him across the octagon with a beautiful lead uppercut. Tom's got to bide time. He's got to bide his time. He's got to let Sergei come to him and fight an aggressive fight so that he can go in there with a takedown. And when Aspinall shoots his takedowns, he's a whole lot better than plotty man Curtis Blades. And I don't give a fuck about Curtis Blades' wrestling accolades and all that. Aspinall's better for MMA wrestling. He's got a beautiful double leg. His entries are really quick. And he can also get a body lock on someone like Sergei. And once the fight's on the mat, nobody has gotten up to their feet when Aspinall's taken them down, unless it's been on Aspinall's accord, meaning the only guy I've ever seen get up from getting taken down by Aspinall was Alexander Volkov. And it was more one of those situations where Aspinall was beating him up so badly on the ground, he had already softened him up, cut him up with elbows, that he kind of just let him up to let him have it on the feet and to give the fans a show. Really, rewatch that fight. It's only one round. I swear Aspinall lets him up just so he could beat him up against the fence with knees so that he could fuck him up more and take him down again. And I think that Sergei could just go in there and showcase the best refrigerator brick wall takedown defense we've ever seen. And trust me, if there's anyone that's worried about the brittle bones of Mr. Aspinall, it's going to be someone like me as well, because again, it's just the legend of the UK hyped up prospect. Unless it's Leon Edwards, and Leon wasn't like a super fun fighter. Remember, it's always the fun British hyped up prospects that end up getting checked at some point or whatever. Leon's a boring guy and he has a boring fight style. So of course he's gotten to the top, but I don't know, man. It's almost as if like the world is too cruel to allow a Brit, a cocky Brit with her chin up in the air to win a championship belt. But I think Aspinall is going to get it done. I think that he's going to display some next-level fight IQ. Sergei hits real hard, though. You don't want to get hit by Sergei Pavlovich. I think we're going to see a very reserved, but a heavy movement Aspinall, heavy with the footwork. And I think he's going to take Sergei down. And once Sergei's on his back, I doubt he has arm bars and triangles off of his back. He's just going to be like the other heavyweights. And it's not Jilton Almeida and Derek Lewis, where Lewis has no neck and Jilton Almeida is like worried about Lewis getting up and whatnot. But because let's be honest, Jilton Almeida was giving up like 40 pounds. Bro, Aspinall's one of the biggest heavyweights on the roster right now. And he's going to mog Sergei Pavlovich on the ground with his jiu-jitsu skill and his finesse from all the years of experience he has when he was growing up and training jiu-jitsu as a lighter guy. His dad always talked about how he had some massive growth spurt and how for the majority, or not the majority, but like a lot of his upbringing, like he wasn't this heavyweight guy, right? And I think he's just going to be a step ahead of Sergei. And I'm going to pick him to TKO Sergei on the ground. That's my pick. TKO, ground and pound, first round, ref steps in, and the world goes crazy. The Brits are on top. We got 2 British champions. But I can totally see Sergei going out there with a patient approach and just sitting behind the jab and Aspinall fighting scared, okay? Because it's one thing to talk about how you're going to go in there and bulldoze him, and it's another thing to actually get in front of the man who's built like a fridge, all right? I think that should be his nickname, the human fridge. He's got he's got the most refrigerator-looking back I've ever seen in my life. And he's just so dangerous, man. If you get hit by him a couple of times, you're as good as toast. You're as good as toast. I don't think Aspinall can trade in the pocket with this guy. Maybe Sergei gets a little bit overzealous and he extends too much on a punch, and then Aspinall can crack him with a counter and then take him down. But I think he's going to play this really safe, and Aspinall's going to get it done by TKO. Jiri Prochazka, Alex Pereira. I am so sick and tired, man, of people telling me, well, you're saying that he doesn't do well under pressure, Alex Pereira, that is. But, Sean Strickland was trying to pressure him, or this little midget that's way undersized in Glory Kickboxing tried to pressure him, and look at what happened to them. They got knocked out. I understand. I never said that Alex Pereira wasn't good when people pressured him or walked him down. I'm just saying when people let their hands go and they're teeing off on him, whether that's a 3-4 piece combination, he has no answer for that, man. He doesn't seem to have a great answer for that. He just backs up and tries his best to get out of range. And when he's in front of a guy like Jiri Prochazka that never lets you settle into a rhythm, that never lets you reset, that also has an 80-inch reach and devastating power with his long, rangy weapons, right? He's got a really long jab and a long right hand. That's going to be an issue for Alex Pereira. And Jiri Prochazka can also fight in southpaw, and southpaws have actually had success against this guy. And I think that when you're jumping up 20 pounds to 205, it's a little bit different than making the 10-pound jump from, for example, featherweight to lightweight, where it's not that big of a difference. And actually, I would usually say that the lighter weight class guys have more skill. And for the most part, that's true. But once you get to a certain amount of weight that you're adding, the strength becomes a big factor. And I think that the 205ers are much bigger than the 85ers that Alex Pereira is used to fighting. And Jiri Prochazka is a natural 205er if there ever was one, man. He's big. He's a very big guy, right? I've seen photos of him recently this week standing next to other guys that are also pretty tall, and he's mogging them all, man. He's, as I said, the 80-inch reach, shredded at 205 pounds. He's just a really physical fighter in there that walks you down and just makes it so miserable, doesn't give you time to breathe, doesn't give you time to set things up. And Alex Pereira is most dangerous when people give him the ability to set things up. Now, I know Pereira can go out there and destroy Jiri Prochazka's legs because he actually won the leg kick battle against Jan Blachowicz, and Jan Blachowicz has those Polish tree trunk legs that I'm always praising and saying he's got the best low kicks and the best leg kick defense as well. He's really good at checking them. That was impressive, man. But Jan Blachowicz is a slow plotter. He's a slow, hunched back, plotty plodster. He's an older man, and he's just, again, that's a kickboxing match. Jiri Prochazka is not a kickboxer. Jiri Prochazka is just a wild man. He's an unorthodox wild man on the feet. He's got one of the most unique styles I've ever seen in my entire life. And I think that this is going to be a fight on his terms. He's going to be backing Pereira up, not giving him space, getting past the low kicks. And I think he's going to be teeing off on Alex with a lot of straight shots, clinching with him, hitting him with elbows and whatnot, and maybe even shooting takedowns and beating up Pereira on the ground because he says he wants to clean up his performances. So I think that's another threat here. I'm going to pick Jiri Prochazka, man. I'm going to pick him because when I see people teeing off on Pereira, throwing combos on him, he doesn't have answers. He's not the best at snapping back with a counter. Sean Strickland was walking him down, throwing a jab. Let me throw another jab, right? It's just such a predictable rhythm that Alex is used to fighting. Sean Strickland's tiny compared to Jiri Prochazka. He has shorter arms than Jiri Prochazka. He has no power, and he's just walking forward like this. And it's not the same output, man. It's just not. And so I'm fucking sick and tired of people telling me he's been dealing with people like Jiri forever, people that'll pressure him. It's not just about the pressure. It's about throwing on him with an 80-inch reach with devastating KO power. That kind of pressure. And Jiri Prochazka, he's just so good at surviving when he gets hurt. I think he is going to get hurt in this fight. I think that Pereira is going to stun him. I think he's going to hurt him badly. And it's going to be dangerous because if Pereira hurts you, you're almost as good as toast, right? It's not like you're toast yet, but you're almost as good as toast. You're in that toaster, and Jiri Prochazka happens to find a way to unplug the toaster, okay? And he's able to pop back out, and he's able to turn the tide and get back on top of someone. And he made a lot of mistakes against Glover Teixeira. He made a lot of mistakes. He got overzealous at times. I just think this is going to be a nasty dogfight, and I favor Jiri, man. I just favor him in this one because this is going to be his style of fight. Again, maybe Alex can really hold him at range with the low kicks. He does have some of the best kicks I've ever seen in MMA. They're not telegraphed. It's going to be so hard to figure that out. So I'm interested in seeing how Jiri Prochazka is going to be able to counter that. If he's able to chew up the leg of Jiri early on, and if Yuri's not able to do much about it, then yes, I could see Pereira keeping this fight at range and picking at Jiri Prochazka and knocking him out on the way in when Yuri's movement is hindered. I could totally see that happening. I just think that Yuri's going to try to really put a heavy amount of pressure on him in this fight and sometimes mix in the grappling. And I think that Alex, when it's a dogfight and both men have been hurt, I just see Jiri Prochazka slumping him out up against the cage, maybe with a knee or something to the face. So I'm going with Jiri Prochazka by TKO. Risky one, but I have to just go with my gut instinct on this one. I've watched all of their fights back, and I keep seeing Jiri Prochazka winning this one. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time. What's up, guys? It's Lucas Tracy MMA, and I'm wondering if you're trying to look like Yoel Romero. Well, if you don't have his genetics, that's impossible, but I could at least help you get halfway there with my ultimate lifting program, and if you're a beginner, my novice lifting program. These are programs that I've used my 9 years of experience in the gym to make so that you can put on as much muscle as possible in as little amount of time as possible. And it'll also give you a variety of workouts so that you never get tired of the gym. So if you're interested, click the link in my description. And for a discount, use code MMA for 30% off.